I didn't break the planet. It was this way when I found it, all right?
Everybody laughed when I first said I wanted to be a comedian. Well, they're not laughing now, are they?
You know why it's laminated, don't you? To catch the tears of joy.
It's a Celtic phoenix. People are thankfully being stupid again.
Welcome to Gurus of Comedy.
With your host, Dave Keeshan.
And welcome to Gurus of Comedy. I'm here with Seizure Kaiser in Australia at the moment. Coming out of lockdown over there. How are you getting on, Seizure?
Doing all right over here. I'm just enjoying not having to work. So that's fun.
Great. Well, and what are you up to these days? What's your comedy background at the moment? You're running a few rooms, did a few shows?
Yeah. I've just been running a couple of venues, currently we're doing some live stream stuff because that's all we can do right now. I produce a whole bunch of shows and gig. Everyone's
trying to get online now because we're all stuck at home. You were always kind of onto the computers and the internet stuff as well, trying to figure out ways of kind of being just more than just the rooms.
Yeah. I've always tried to do more than just having a comedy room because general people don't care. They really don't care. So you need a hook to get them in. However, what I've noticed a lot of people doing online is they're doing either stand-up shows online with no audience, which is weird and bizarre. And why would you do it without an audience? Or they're doing stuff that isn't their brand, if you get what I mean. So a guy that's probably talking about like women and all that kind of stuff is now doing a online news show. I'm like, why? That's not your branding. That has nothing to do with you.
Oh, it's tough. I think everyone is just throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks. It's like, jumping on anything they can.
Yeah, and look, fine, at least you're doing something. I know a lot of comics who just stopped altogether. Yeah, I'm like, oh man, this is kind of good for me. I get my voice out. Everyone else is like, nah, no.
So I was kind of decided to discuss the movie Joker today, which kind of is a bit comedy, but isn't, but is. The hook that gets us started is the fact that in his normal life, in the movie, he is a clown, but in the background he's also trying to stand up in what seems to be like New York in the early 80s. They call it Gotham, but it really is the kind of stand-up scene that was probably in New York back then.
When I was a little boy and told people I was going to be a comedian, everyone laughed at me. Well, no one's laughing now.
You can say that again, pal.
What did you make of that?
I love the movie. I'm a big Joker fan, and I was very skeptical about the movie when they announced it. I'm like, you shouldn't give the Joker an origin movie because he's never had an origin in the comics.
Yeah, well, he had that kind of weird one, The Killing Joke. But the problem with the Joker is anything they say he's done is like, but did he? He could have been lying. So even then,
well, that's why it was perfect because he keeps telling different stories about his scars.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems about the true essence of Joker was just the pure anarchy. He doesn't care, which kind of I found out a bit. I struggled a bit in that movie with Joaquin Phoenix, in that he really cared. He was really upset. He kind of I never saw him become that kind of absolute pure Mark Hamill Joker, absolute anarchy. He still always seemed to have this kind of emotional energy under him. Even when he was on the show at the end with Robert De Niro, he still seemed a bit nervous almost.
I think for spoilers, for anyone else.
Oh yes, spoilers galore here, yeah.
The part where he is on the talk show and then he shoots Murray, the talk show host.
That's Robert De Niro's character.
Because the whole point, it's leading up to him blowing off his own head. And then you can see when Murray's interviewing him, he gets really angry at Murray, so he shoots him instead.
Yeah, right.
And that's the turning point. The click of, I'm no longer, who cares about me? This is a spectacle.
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
What's wrong with your real name?
That's what you called me on the show. A Joker. Do you remember?
Did I? I don't know. Well, if you say so, kid, Joker it is. It's good.
Thanks, Murray.
I was actually listening to NPR with Terry Gross, and they had Mark Maron on it. So this was one case where Mark Maron's on a podcast where he's the guest instead of being the host, and he was discussing his role in there. He plays the character Gene, and he sort of says when Joaquin Phoenix came in and played the role, Phoenix actually ignored Mark Maron. Not that the Arthur Fleck was ignoring Gene. It was the actor who was ignoring Mark, and he said he found it very, very disconcerting, and he kind of was almost put off because if you've ever listened to Maron, he's like just strewn with anxiety anyway, trying to figure out what's wrong with everything. But he said later he came away and said it kind of worked for the role, or that's where the headspace that Phoenix was in at the time.
Yeah. Well, like Phoenix is a method act. He would be pretending that this guy is nobody, and Murray is the focus.
Yeah, Murray's the focus, and he just only talked to him. Kind of watch the scene back again, and you kind of go, okay, I can really see it in there. That kind of energy is kind of a bit more. That's very effective. I found it an interesting take on Joker. I kind of came to Jack Nicholson, Mark Hamill, and while Jack is great, Jack is still kind of an element of Jack. But Mark Hamill's kind of interpretation has become like the gold standard.
Oh yeah, Mark Hamill's the best Joker, hands down. The reason I don't Jack Nicholson one is because it changes the origins way too much.
Yeah, I kind of didn't get too hung up on that.
Oh, reading the comics for so many years.
Yeah, but I think in their defense, like those were one of the first comic book movies, and they hadn't really understood how to kind of dip into the lore and actually use it correctly. They kind of the bit, I think when they wanted to do Spider-Man about then, they wanted him to be wearing a suit of armor, and like they just like, we have a cool look, and we just kind of want to make our own stuff. So the fact that Batman. With Michael Keaton, Hughes so close to the source material was actually unprecedented at the time.
Yeah, that was Michael Keaton's Batman was great.
Which we all say in hindsight.
Even like if you look at the Superman movie from 78 or whatever it was, that was very close to the source material until he started having new powers that we never heard of, like reversing.
Yeah, being able to fly around the planet so fast, yeah, and make time go backwards. Like I would just do that all the time.
But like if we compare it to Jared Leto's Joker, then
I think that's when I finally realized that maybe I'm getting old. That maybe everyone feels this about like this creature of anarchy. That I just didn't get him. I just didn't kind of rate him. And maybe it's like, but he's meant to be just the antithesis of everything. So maybe he's right, or maybe he's not for the role. But I just didn't have no interest in seeing him in that role again. Period.
It added nothing to the movie.
Yeah, well, like I suppose it was kind of like, I think it was really meant to be a background character that they kind of what was it? He started off as a main character, and the more they went into that movie, they just kind of cut out more and more of the bits that he actually filmed.
It was weird because it sounded like he was trying to incorporate the Jack Nicholson and the Mark Hamill Joker together, but it wasn't a unique take. It was just trying to combine past elements that worked.
Yeah, I don't know, like the whole the tattooing and I don't know, like you could sort of say that that's kind of the anarchy of today, but I always find just the white skin and the red lips. That's it. That's all you need, It doesn't need to be anything more complicated than that. And the green hair, of course. Like,
it's just, you look at where the original source material for the Joker came from, was from maybe in the 1920s, I think it was, or early 30s. The Man Who Laughs.
Yeah, I think I've seen pictures of that anyway. I haven't seen it.
Beautiful movie.
Oh, you've seen it, yeah?
So it's about a guy who's like, the town, they decided to disfigure the guy, and they put a permanent smile on his face, because I think he was accused of something, but he wasn't the actual guy, so they got the wrong person. But they put a permanent smile on him, and he just has this creepy smile throughout the whole thing. And if you look at the very first picture of the Joker,
I've seen that.
Then you can see the...
Yeah, no, I've seen that, and it's kind of very much the look. The Joker's come through quite a lot of iterations. I actually found, I suppose the big one, like I really did enjoy Chris Nolan's Batman series, The Dark Knight, and really kind of seemed to get back to the essence of it. Heath Ledger, well, sadly, Sidney Boy passed away not even before he got the Oscar. Couldn't bring him back anyway, but I suppose there was questions about whether they would have brought him back. He was just kind of like a meteorite that kind of smashed in and then ricocheted back out again.
The novelization of The Dark Knight Rises, which was a sequel, as you don't know, Joker is there.
Sure, okay. He's in Arkham or something, is it?
Yeah, they say they put him in Blackgate, in the deepest, darkest cell in Blackgate, so he can never get out.
Okay, but if you read the comics, he always gets out somehow. When the third movie came out, Dark Knight Rises, there was a massacre in Aurora, Colorado. Some guy called James Egan Holmes was dressed up, and he had his hair dyed as orange, and he killed 12 people and injured 58. So this was quite serious. I remember there was like There's all talk about, could you even, the movie getting cancelled or being held back. But it was pretty serious, and it was kind of everyone kind of said he looked a bit like the Joker, even though his said no, he wasn't. His hair was dyed orange, not green.
Yeah, it was more Ronald McDonald than he was Joker.
Yeah, I think when this movie Joker came out, Phoenix was actually queried on whether or not there was something connected, that like his Joker almost seems to be that character somewhat. I kind of said, okay, that's a bit of a connection, but when I watched the movie and you kind of really see what he's like, and okay, so that's the setup. But here's my theory. Everyone kind of goes on, this was a weird comic book movie because it's not in the main DCU and all that sort of stuff, and you don't kind of see Batman or you see anybody else. So here's my theory. This is a comic book movie, but it's not a comic book movie. Arthur Fleck read a lot of Batman comics, and there's Joker in there, and that's where he got that character from. So he is kind of growing into that role that he's kind of grown up on. And it is New York City in the 80s, and it is crappy, but he's the one that's kind of overlaid all the Gotham stuff in his head, because we're seeing it all through his point of view.
True.
What do you think?
Let me have a opposing view.
Yes?
I think the events did happen. He just romanticized the idea of it was in the 80s, and it's completely different.
Okay, so really? Because
if you look at the final scene, right?
Yeah.
He's in the Arkham Asylum, basically.
Yeah.
And the psychiatrist he's talking to was the exact same psychiatrist from the beginning, except she's older. However, Arthur Fleck's not older.
Okay.
So I think he's stuff.
Okay, so I think everyone kind of says that the only thing that's probably real in that movie is the last scene.
Yeah.
When he's walking around, he's leaving bloody footprints around, so he's probably killed her. So it's probably the only thing that people can affirmatively say, and everything else is up for grabs, because we've already seen that this kind of girlfriend idea he had, that didn't happen. It was all like in his head. So she was at these comedy shows that he was like killing at. Probably didn't happen, You kind of roll everything back. It's like, what? Did any of it happen? Did him even getting on TV, even in any form as the Joker? And for one thing, like that whole setup, even with the guest, is from Dark Knight Returns. That's the one where the old Joker gets out of an insane asylum after being like catatonic for 15, 20 years, and he has some character like your one sex therapist. I can't think of her name. And she's exactly the same.
Yeah, they've definitely taken bits from a whole bunch of different sources and amalgamated them into this Joker movie.
Mm-hmm. Which of course they are, but I just felt that was very much almost the exact scene from that comic book, but completely time shifted to the start of his career instead of it was technically more towards the end.
Yeah, and there's no flying robot child going to the audience gassing them all.
No, actually that's in the extended cut, I think.
You're talking about the animated one. I was talking about...
No, it was very pure. It was very simple. What was really interesting, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie King of Comedy. So that's the one that De Niro did actually back... I think it's almost exactly... filmed at exactly the time when that movie's set. And he plays Rupert Pumpkin, who is desperately trying to get onto a TV show as a comedian. And Jerry Lewis is playing the character called Jerry Langford. So the flip of having De Niro in that role really kind of conforms it again. And I was actually listening to a trailer with De Niro in it, and his voice mannerisms that De Niro has in that role is nearly the exact same voice mannerisms that Phoenix seems to be using. That kind of hesitant kind of role,
I didn't even notice that.
Maybe it's only in the trailer, but it's you can nearly put the two side by side.
Now, you come on, Jerry, and you do your monologue, and then when the time comes, this is how I see you introducing me. You could say something like this. Will you please give your warmest welcome to the newest King of Comedy, Rupert Pumpkin?
I haven't seen the movie in a while.
No, I haven't seen it in a long time. I just checked the trailer out just to kind of form this.
A lot of people were complaining, saying that, it's just the same movie again. And I'm like, well, sure, it might have a lot of similarities, but at the same time, that was 30 years ago, right? A generation of people who don't know what King of Comedy is, they're probably not going to watch King of Comedy. So why not repackage the movie into something that's accessible?
Yeah, I actually think it's sort of made better for it that the two are complementary. It's sort of almost like rhythms or harmonics.
There is so Joker's taken influence obviously from King of Comedy, Taxi Driver, Network. If you've heard of that one.
Yeah, Network. Yeah, I see that.
Network's great. But yeah, it's an amalgamation of all those. That's why it's such a good movie. I just love how they tricked the studio in making a serious independent movie, but on a scale like this.
Yeah, no, it's very unusual, this one. I think between that and Deadpool in the past few years, they kind of take the roles to the next level, and kind of, you can do comic book movies that are a bit off the beat. Like I was watching documentary and that the guys who own Marvel now don't care about the comic books. In fact, they would rather have them cancelled. You know, they have the characters, they have the roles, and I said, but like, that's where all the great stories. It's like, you know, it's like a feeder reactor for trying out ideas, you know?
Like, it's funny how a lot of people who love the movies don't really care about the comics, but people who like comics, you know, they are worried that the movie will screw things up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember Iron Man 3, for example.
I actually enjoyed that, but I thought that was a bit meta.
Yeah, but like, I didn't care. I had fun. I enjoyed both mediums, and I can understand why they did that, because it's fantastical to make the leap of, you know, a being that's got sorcery and stuff.
Oh, you mean like that the Mandarin was actually just an actor? But then they had this short later where they show that the Mandarin was actually real, and he was kind of annoyed that this actor was playing him.
Yeah, and apparently the Mandarin's coming in the next Marvel movie coming out after Black Widow.
Okay, that'll be interesting. Yeah, I thought that was, like, I was not expecting that, and I just thought it was played so well. And of course, Kingsley was very good in the role too. They were finally comfortable, and maybe Downey just allowed them to kind of try stuff out like that. But they wouldn't be doing that in the first movie anyway.
Definitely not. People have been like, this is bullshit. Straight up. But it's funny the backlash Joker got for people who are purists. And we're like, no, this is not the Joker. But I consider myself a Joker purist. I enjoyed it quite a lot.
Right. Yeah, that's why I want to talk to you, because I think you would be, I mean, you actually go and perform on stage with your face painted. I don't know how much of that you've taken from him or from that kind of ideal.
Well, the face was never part of like a Joker thing. It was just more like branding.
Sure.
I took it from my DJ days, you know, but...
There was something from Joker there, come on. I mean, you didn't paint it pink or blue or red. It was white.
Yeah, white and black, though. It was more like, I was into like the band Insane Clown Posse. That's where that face paint came from. It never came from the Joker.
No? Okay. I kind of thought it was a bit there. A bit more like the Dark Knight. Oh, not Dark Knight. The Crow.
Also love that movie, so...
Now, I suppose that would be the first comic book movie, really, that kind of came out that they were very true to the source, you know. But it was kind of one of those weird ones that no one really knew it as a comic book, so it kind of could do its own thing a bit more.
Yeah.
So the movie blew the hinges off everything. Phoenix got an Oscar for it. So now it's two people who get to play Joker get Oscars. So I suppose Jared Leto was probably even more annoyed at that. And now they're talking about trying to do a sequel. Like, would that work?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Depends how they do it.
I'm struggling. Like, to be fair, I didn't know what they were going to do with that movie. And they did what they did. It seemed to work. But, you know, does he become... So, like, the theory is that if this is a real comic book movie, if this really isn't a DC movie universe, he's like the proto-Joker, and that other Jokers are kind of somehow informed by or descended from him.
Well, there's a comic book called The Three Jokers.
Mm-hmm.
Writers that said it's canon if you want it to be canon. So apparently 3 different Jokers, because in the last, when DC did this thing called the New 52 and they rebooted the whole series, there was this chair that Batman sits in, and like you can ask this chair anything and it gives you any answer from the entire universe. And you go, what's the identity of the Joker? And the chair responds with, what do you mean? There's 3 of them.
Okay.
2.5 years and they still haven't released this comic yet explaining it.
So the theory I heard that Jared Leto is actually really Robin. That he's one of the Batman Robins that kind of, probably Jason Todd, who kind of got disenfranchised with Batman. So in the comic book, he becomes Red Hood after being beaten by Joker almost to death. Like, Batman thought he was dead for 20, 30 years. Comes back as Red Hood. And Red Hood was meant to be the role that Joker was before he became Joker. So that the Jared Leto's character is this Robin that he's being attacked, or... Because if you go into the Batcave, they have like "ha ha ha" painted all over the Robin suit in the kind of display case, and that it was actually
a wound on the suit where if you look, he's got the same wound in the exact same place.
So I kind of thought like that I could see that going somewhere. Like I find that, you know, there's a bit of history and it kind of goes back a bit, and maybe there's more going on there. But I think that was an absolute disaster. I think they're basically drawing a line under the whole lot and starting again. I think Henry Cavill is out. It looks like Orpaz is now Batman. They're resetting it back to the early days. I think they're just going to start all over again.
New Suicide Squad that's getting directed by James Gunn is a complete reboot.
Oh, completely.
The only character they're keeping is Harley Quinn.
Yeah, so she's quite popular. They just like reset her a bit like like these Bond characters, the way that they kept changing Bonds, but they like Miss Moneypenny kept hanging around the same one, even though the timeline was like moving, she was still somehow the same.
Well, have you seen the Harley Quinn cartoon series that's come out?
No, but I've heard good stuff about it.
Really freaking good.
Is it? I found when she was created in the DC animated universe as a kind of a side character that just exploded, and then by the end they kind of had her. She was only meant to be like a henchman for Joker, but her character was so successful that she eventually cracked away from Joker and was having stories with her and Poison Ivy. I've been told. Yeah. So is that the kind of? I'm guessing that's kind of the setup, is it?
Yeah, pretty much. Basically, she breaks away from Joker because Joker's mistreating her, and she joins Ivy, and they start trying to create their own super league of villains. It's a lot of swearing, a lot of graphic violence, and it's quite funny though.
Oh, really? I thought it was more for kids.
Ooh, it's definitely not for kids.
Oh, okay. I've got a 5-year-old daughter. I better not let her watch it then.
There was a comic that just came out. So DC have now released a new version of their comic book line called DC Black Label, and it's more adult stories.
Mm-hmm. Is this just Vertigo merged back in? I heard like the Vertigo line, which used to be independent, Sandman and all that sort of stuff, it's kind of been reintegrated back into DC.
Pretty much, yeah. And they released a thing called The White Knight, which is basically Joker becomes sane.
Okay.
Decides to sue Batman for making him destroy the whole city and all that, and everyone starts going behind him and cheering him on. And apparently now there's 2 Harley Quinns.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know. I get a bit worried that they just keep kind of taking a great idea and just like expanding it. What was the company of Batman or
Batman Incorporated?
Batman Incorporated. It's just like, yeah, let's just create loads of Batman around the planet. And I really thought it was going to be like comics in like India, South America, where they'd have their own local characters. So they were just trying. It was only created so they could sell more comics into those different markets.
Yeah.
But it seemed to kind of, I think they rebooted the universe yet again, and that story kind of, I don't know if that's canon anymore, if they're going a different way.
Who knows? Like, it's hard to keep crap.
Talking about comics, it's kind of interesting to see, like, The Walking Dead is finally finished. That your man kind of said, look, I had an end goal. I mean, he said he thought he'd finish by issue 75. I think it was more like 175, but he just said, look, I'd just be rehashing the story, so he wound it up. And I think it's better for it, it's like, that story is done.
Yeah, no need for side stories. It's a complete story.
But you'll never get that with Batman or Superman or Spider-Man's. That like they'll always kind of rehash and rehash and rehash. Like I'm kind of still a bit.
Have you ever read or seen The Boys?
Well, I've seen it. I need to read it. The TV show is pretty good. I can kind of see what the comic book would be about. All right.
Okay.
But it's a bit like Mark Millar's stuff, Wanted, and what was the other one he did? What if Joker was Batman? Nemesis, that's it. Yeah, I read it, but that was also like a self-contained story too.
Well, the cool thing about Boys, it was an ongoing series that had a conclusion, and the writer, he's written such amazing comic books, and it seems like he hates superheroes. That's why they're perfect.
Sure.
And that's like one story. You don't need to go explore other side stories. It's done. It's finished.
Yeah, I think I wrote Babylon 5, J. Michael Straczynski. He wrote a set of comics called Rising Stars, and it was like a celestial event kind of gives all like these children that were in the womb at the time special powers, and that's it. And no one else gets them, and it can't transfer except when one of them dies. The power goes to the rest of them. It's just like some powers could be a bit crap. There's this guy, he's invulnerable, but that's it. He's not strong. He's not, can't jump or anything. He just can't be hurt, and he just becomes like an overweight guy stuck in his room, with nothing to do. And it just kind of says, not all these things are like super duper or great. These guys could, it's still kind of what would you do with it, and other people could act a bit differently if they had it.
It's like I love more independent comics these days instead of the main stuff because I'm bored with it.
Yeah, well, Seizure, you might be growing up, It's, you're not...
Shut up.
Yeah, I was kind of... I knew I was growing up the other day. I hoovered up a piece of Lego and I just didn't care, It's like, I don't care. The 7-year-old in me was dying that day. I've
decided to steal off a lot of my collectibles and statues and all that. I'm just like, I'm done with this.
Really? Oh, wow. They take up a lot of space. I mean, I've got some Lego Star Wars packed away. It's like, I'd love to get out. Just don't know where I'd put them. Just don't have the space for them.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm like, I'd rather take that money and just, get some Coke or something and just smelt that up. I mean, never mind.
Yeah, have you checked out 40-Year-Old Virgin? There's your plan for the rest of your life.
Pretty much.
Anyway, Seizure, thank you so much for coming on today, and thank you for talking about Joker. Can't wait to see what the next one is like.
Oh, yeah. I'll speak to you in another 3 years about it.
3 years? I mean, could turn around one day and go, boom, there it is.
With this whole ISO stuff, I don't know what's going on. Apparently, international travel until late 2021.
Right. Yeah, that's probably well, most movies are kind of on hold. It's not just them. But I actually saw that this could be fantastic for animation studios. The isolation is like those guys aren't being held up as much. They can kind of proceed. They don't have to go out. You can work from home.
That's pretty good. And I know Into the Spider-Verse, that'll be pretty cool. The second one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all animated, so we'll see what happens.
Cool. All right. Well, I'd like to sign off and say best of luck out there. You want to say anything else before we go? Is anything worth promoting? Tell me your websites, your deets.
Yeah, I am Seizure on all my socials. I am Seizure. Just look that up.
And I am Dave Keeshan, so you can find me out there. Get us on Apple iTunes, give us all the stars you can, and we'll see you again. Goodbye.